For a couple of weeks now, we've been anticipating doing an episode on cultivating wild yeast to make an 18th century sourdough bread. But the more we did research, the more it became apparent that this was not something that they did in the 18th century. Now today, if you ask 50 people about how to start a wild yeast culture for making sourdough bread, it's likely you'll get 100 different answers. But in reality, all it takes is a little bit of flour and some water and some time. Now the question remains, did people in the 18th century knowingly and intentionally propagate wild yeast? Our initial conclusion was yes, due to the frequent references to sour bread. But as we dug deeper, we found only 3 references to propagating wild yeast, none of those prior to 1790. They were either examples of scientific experiments or they were from non-European cultures. Interestingly, the typical response to these experiments is astonishment. Let me read to you this a little excerpt or a little piece from a journal. This is dated 1790, and it's from the Transactions of the Society for the Encouragement of Arts, Manufacturing, and Commerce. And this is in context to about a contest. This society had a contest about the manufacture of yeast. And this is a man writing about experiments that he's doing to make yeast. Here the man writes about his assistant. He accordingly brought me some small vessel with a full head of yeast upon it, assuring me with some degree of exultation that neither oil of vitriol with chalk nor any portion of old yeast had been employed on that occasion. This greatly surprised me, and I desired he would proceed with the experiment. So his experiment had to do with having boiled water and malt and nothing else, and just letting this set over time. He was cultivating a wild yeast, and he didn't even know it. Now there are many 18th century recipes for making yeast in circumstances when yeast was in short supply. Now, other than these experiments that I've already mentioned, they all had to do with propagating yeast from a little bit of pre-existing yeast. So it was very surprising for these experimenters to find that you could make a yeast slurry without adding any pre-existing yeast. So it's apparent that these experiments flew against the conventional wisdom. So what does this mean for the 18th century reenactor or historic site? Should we be using a bread baked with barm or sourdough bread made with leaven? Well, it really depends on who we're trying to portray, what our culture is, what our class is, and what our climate is. The one thing we can seem to draw from this information is that propagating wild yeast in the manner in which we do today to make sourdough bread is not an historically accurate option.